Just moving on to a former fighter of yours, Liam Williams. In a couple of days, he takes on Chris EUBANK Jr. I spoke to Liam a few weeks ago. I don't know if you saw the interview, because obviously him leaving the gym was a bit of a surprise. And I asked him, I think one of the comments he said that he felt stale. Obviously, just based on that actual comment, did you guys have a conversation with each other? And, you know, was there anything you could have done to change things up?
No, listen, look, we tend to develop fighters from the ground up. Not so much now because, you know, time's ticking on and it's all changing boxing. But back in the past, you look at Johnny Nelson, Kid Galahad, Kell Brook, Ryan Rhodes, all them fighters, they came from this gym as an amateurs. We brought them all the way through. We very rarely took on fighters from outside of the gym. Lots of reasons why. But over the past few years, when you become a decent trainer and you get people like we've had Billy Joe Saunders, Nicola Adams, Liam Williams, Will Hutchinson, you get these fighters coming to you, and it's like they've got to really adapt to your setup and how your system is. And when you take on board a high-profile fighter like Billy Joe Saunders or Liam Williams, well, all the eyes are on you because you know they can fight. Now, you think before Billy came to me, he had that horrible fight in Scotland in a sports centre, he looked shocking. So you're being given this product, which is a gold standard product, and you've got to make something out of it. Now, I think it's fair to say when he boxed William Monroe and David Lemieux, his performances were very, very good. Dominic. So I took a guy who was very, very stale, probably not motivated by boxing, to two really good performances, what put him back on the world stage, especially with the Lemieux fight. He got, you know, we look at your video, fantastic performance. But then it's trying to replicate that over and over again. Liam Williams came to me after being beat by Liam Smith twice. He had one little fight in a sports centre in Wales. Then we had a very good run for 3 years. What took him back to another world title shot, which I'd say is a legitimate world title shot. I don't consider the fights against Liam Smith proper world title fights. I think Andre's a quality operator. And, you know, he didn't win that fight. I thought he gave a very good account of himself, considering the circumstances and everything else. We had a good run. And, you know, so taking fighters like that back up is a big responsibility. Not all trainers can do it. Some trainers get hold of good fighters who've gone through a bad patch and they can't get them back to the top. And it's difficult to do because you've got to learn all about the fighter. You've got to learn about what makes them tick, the personalities. Everybody's different. Liam Williams is 10 times different to Billy Joe Saunders, different to Kell Brook. You've got to learn the personalities and learn how to guide them through what works for them. And as far as getting stale, look, once again, that's Liam's opinion. It's not a problem. If that's how he felt, it's not an issue. There's not a great deal you can do because years and years ago, I'll tell you this little story. He's no longer with us, my dad. Nazi Mamid, when he got to the top of his tree at 21, 22, came in the gym and said, Brendan, all you need to do is train me. You don't be wasting your time on anybody else because nobody in this gym is going to be a world champion apart from me. I'm a gift from God, inshallah. And we used to laugh. Get rid of everybody out of this gym, Brendan, and just train me. He went, Naz, he goes, all I have to do is train you for an hour in the morning and an hour at night. He says, I'm not going to be sitting around all day long just to do that. He says, when you come into this gym, the priority is on you. All our eyes on you, you get all the training. Doesn't matter what I do in between. And if Errol Graham had said to me when I was training him, Brendan, get rid of all these kids here. He says, you won't be even boxing. Think about that one. So he sat there and thought about it. He says, I don't need to spend all my time training you, Naz. The only thing what's going to make you any better is the way that you live your life outside of the ring. Because everything you're doing in here is what you're supposed to be doing for 2 hours of the day. There's 24 hours in a day. What are you doing for other 22 hours? Are you sleeping for 10 hours? Are you eating good for 8 hours? What are you doing? No, you're probably not. So it doesn't matter what time I spend on you in this gym, you can easily unravel it outside of the gym. Now, I'm not implying this to Liam Williams, I'm implying this to all fighters. Right? All fighters. Once you get to a certain level, it's the way and you're training good in the gym, it's the way you conduct yourself outside of the gym, how you live your life. Are you drinking? Are you partying? Are you up late? Are you overeating? What are you doing? So that's what unravels fighters. That's what unravels fighters. So if Liam thought he was getting stale, that's just how his view of things are. But it is, you know, he's living away from home. He's 4 hours away. He's missing his family. He's just had a lad, and things change. His situation changed. So of course it's going to affect what he does here. Of course it does. When I had kids, it affected what I did in this gym. Of course, that's how it works. So you've got to be happy being a boxer. You've got to be happy what you're doing. And if this wasn't happy for him, that's not a problem. But it worked really well for 3 years. We got him back to where he needed to be. If he thought he needed to change, that's fine. It's not an issue because he's not a kid I've had since 10 years old. He's a kid I've had a relationship with for 3 years. We've done very, very well together. We've had some good wins. You know, he always trained very, very well. Always listened to as he was told. And, you know, he just turned around and said to me, he said the same thing to me, I think I'm getting a bit stale. And I went, Liam, no, not an issue at all. We've had a good run. I'd like to think that I've helped your career along. And it's culminated in another fight, a big fight with EUBANK Junior. You know, he's gone from Andrade, big fight, to EUBANK's big fight. Hopefully he wins and he goes on to another big fight. Because I'll always sit back and think, yeah, we're part of that process. Might not be part of the EUBANK's fight. I might have been training for Andrade when he got beat, but it's still an experience and we still got him back to where he needed to be when probably his career was going down the pan. So just in itself, bringing him through back to that point of being in another world title fight, for me or for him, was really an achievement.
And obviously he's gone to Adam Booth, completely different style of training to obviously what you teach here. So obviously having to do that within a few months and obviously taking on EUBANK, how do you think he gets on in that fight, and will that have helped him?
You got to remember, you know, Adam Booth's a good trainer, and it doesn't matter what this style of training is, because if you're a good trainer, what you do is you adopt your style to how to train that fighter, what they need to do. It's no good me, you know, training Liam Williams to be a certain, I'll go back to, you know, the example everybody leads, being Azim Ahmed. Yeah, he did learn to switch, he did learn to do pads from both stances, but he was never told to win and fight a fight southpaw or switch. If he felt he could do it, then he did it. There's never any pressure. But you look at his strengths, you look at his weaknesses, you work on them, and realistically, Liam Williams, when he came to this gym, didn't change as a fighter. He just got smarter, he got better conditioned, and he thought about things more, because Liam Williams can box. This is what I'm saying to you. I've seen Liam Williams, when he reverts to type, it's just crash, bang, wallop. But he can box, because look at the performance he did against Mark Efron when everybody was touting him as the next big thing. He completely outboxed him. When people were like, wow, didn't expect him to do that. I expect him to have a tear up, but he can box, and he has got a boxing brain, and he is a better boxer than Chris EUBANK. He's a better boxer. He comes through the amateur system, Liam, you know, the professional system. I would say with EUBANK, a lot of his momentum's been down to his name, and in this next fight, it is a fight Liam can win. I don't know what training he's done, but I know when he trains, he always trains properly. So there'll be no question that he's cut corners, he'll have had the right sparring. Adam Booth knows what he's doing, he's got an understanding of what EUBANK is like. If I was going to pass any kind of comment, what I would say is this fight's here for Liam to lose if he fights the wrong fight, because I don't think Chris EUBANK has ever done anything different from all the trainers he's ever been with. So it doesn't matter whether Roy Jones is training him, his dad's training him, Adam Booth's training him, whoever's training him, I don't really see any improvements whatsoever, do you?
Well, Adam Booth actually said the other day he felt Chris was the favourite in the fight in an interview with Sky, and I think I read an article the other day saying that he talked about EUBANK's losses, saying that they were both close decisions, like, you know, the Billy Joe, the George Groves fight. They were closest fights against George Groves. He obviously came on strong towards the end, basically trying to imply that he's on the brink of world level, and Liam obviously.
I wouldn't agree. You know, whether he's trying to lead, it's a bit of gamemanship, he's trying to lead EUBANK's team into a bit of sense of false security, I don't know. But what I will say is this, look, Billy Joe Saunders is his own worst enemy by his own admission. He is a very, very, very talented fighter, and I wish that I got him when he was young at 18, because his style suits this gym down to the ground, and that performance against Lemieux was how it all worked out perfect. Because nothing was changed with Billy Joe Saunders. He knew how to box. He was just better diet, better fitness, better game plan. That was it. When he boxed EUBANK, if you ever speak to Billy about that fight, he said, I was only fit for 6 rounds. And if you look after 6 rounds, Billy started to dip. He says, I conned him through that fight. He said, I don't know what kind of training he needed. He goes, but I went in that fight 50, 60%, and I can well believe it, because I watched that fight and I saw Billy dipping. So EUBANK didn't even get the best version of Billy Joe Saunders. He got the 50% version, and the 50% of Billy Joe Saunders still beat whatever the best version of EUBANK was. Yeah? That's that. As for George Groves was at the end of his career, way past his best. Do you understand? If that had been a few years earlier, George Groves would have knocked out Chris Eubank. I've had George Groves in this gym. He could punch and he could fight. And you look at the fight he gave Cole Froch. So when we're comparing them fights, Chris Eubanks got beat by fighters who were nowhere near the best. That's what the reality is. So
Does Liam win Saturday?
Sorry?
Does Liam win, and how does he do it?
I personally think that, just finish this one off, that Adam Booth is saying that people's perception is that Eubanks is the favourite because he's Chris Eubanks Jr. and Liam Williams is going to have a tear up and walk into everything. What I'm going to say is that I hope Liam Williams wins because it's a fight he can win. If he boxes the way he's supposed to box, because he's going to have to box Chris Eubank, he's going to have to be smarter than him. If he goes in crash bang wallop and starts going rough stuff and just trying to tear it with him, I don't think he'll win the fight. I think that'll favour Eubanks more because Eubanks can do that. He can stand in close and just throw shots. So can Liam.
What's the most likely outcome? Because you know Liam, and you know what he's capable of doing.
Listen, I could only predict an outcome if I was training him, and I'm not training him, so I don't know what he's done. I ain't seen him spar. Yeah. I'm not sitting on the fence, I ain't seen him spar. All I'm saying to you is, if the Liam Williams who boxed the Mark Efron and the Atlantic Fox turns up, do you understand? And he's trained like that, he's done his weight properly and everything else, he will beat Chris Eubank Jr. Because you look at Mark Efron, Liam walked up, moved up from light middle to middle. It was a fight they more or less put on him and said, this is the only fight for you. And at the time, Efron was knocking everybody out. They thought they were going to beat Liam. Liam completely outboxed him. Atlantic Fox had been up there top level, big American, tall, long, ranger, decent quality operator. Liam just broke him down and bashed him because he thought about what he was doing. Joe Mullinder knocked him out in 2 rounds, like easy work. So you think of all Liam's fights, all these fights for me stopped everybody more or less until he got to Andrade. He had a bit of a shoulder injury, whether that was a factor in the fight, I don't know. But all I'm saying to you, if Liam's done everything right and he fights to the best of ability with a good game plan, he can beat Chris Eubank because Chris Eubank isn't anything sparkling. His game is fit, he's got a decent enough chin. He's not a fantastic boxer. You understand? And, I had lots of conversations with Buddy O'Sons about Chris Eubank. And he said, he goes, I just blagged him. He says he ain't got a boxing brain. So, and the other thing is, another factor is that he's had so many trainers. What has he picked up? What I'm just saying to you, I asked you this question, you didn't answer it. Have you ever seen a change in him? Have you ever seen his game being raised or boxing better or seen a massive improvement?
I think everyone knows his aggressive style is always going to be the same. I suppose the last few fights with Roy, it seems like he's kind of held back a little bit. Like the Marcus Morrison fight, I think there was an opportunity for him to stop Marcus.
But was there though?
It seemed like that way, but he let it carry on. And
maybe he was getting the rounds in, maybe he wasn't, who knows. That's another, I suppose if you don't stop somebody that you're supposed to stop, you can always use the excuse saying, I'm going to get the rounds done.
I'd say it seems less aggressive.
Maybe because he's older. He's also got to come down to middleweight, which is being campaigned at super middle. That it can have an effect over time when you're not used to that. So for me, my conclusion is it's there for Liam Williams to lose if he doesn't fight the right fight. I personally think if he boxes a smart fight and he's done the training properly, he's had the good sparring and he keeps his head and boxes to the best of his ability, and I mean box, not fight, then I think he wins that fight. Okay. If he doesn't get wound up, if he doesn't let Eubanks wind him up, and because I've seen a few interviews where he said, "I'll take you outside and give you a good hiding," or we sparred one time and a bit of rough and tumble. Yeah, Liam can do all that. He can do that for fun, but he's leaving himself open to either getting a cut like he did with Liam Smith or some kind of injury. When he boxes, and he can box. I've seen him in this gym spar. Loads of people, completely outbox him and look $1 million doing it. And if he can do that, then he'll beat Eubank.